Welcome everyone to Light Leaks.
Hello.
Today we have a very special episode for you. I'm here in the booth with Kadeem himself. You want to say hi to the people?
Hello, people that I'll never meet.
Got your ass. Hopefully this is a setup that we'll have going forward. Being able to be in the same room and having a better mic setup. Today we're talking about a old head photographer, Alfred Stieglitz. You heard of him?
Never heard of him.
Tragic. What you don't know is that we've done like 4 takes, and this is my 3rd time asking Kadeem if he's heard of Alfred Stieglitz.
Funny enough, I still haven't heard about him.
So true. So Alfred Stieglitz is named Alfred Stieglitz. Today we're looking at his works called Equivalents. They're a collection of cloud photos, and they're good. I like them, at least. So before we go into Equivalents, we're going to talk about clouds in photography.
It's a nice cloud. A couple of nice clouds.
Yeah, a few nice clouds. Yeah.
I don't really fuck with the one in the middle, though.
Oh, you that kind of guy? I should have known.
Should have known.
So, starting off talking about the history of clouds in photography, we're going to go back to the 1850s. That's bad news for us.
Yeah, super enslaved. Super enslaved.
Was it like the 60s at the...
1865.
That's fucked up.
Yeah, real fucked up.
Anyways, back to photography. We've got a photo of a strapping young lad here. And as you'll notice, there's jack shit behind him. That's because film technology at this point was basically incapable of taking photos of clouds. The film back then was just not sensitive to red light, really, and that meant that blue things were overexposed and red things were a lot darker than they should have been. On top of that, the dynamic range at that time was just abysmal. For those of you who don't know, dynamic range is the camera's ability to capture the lowest lows of a scene and the highest highs of a scene. If the dynamic range is really narrow, then you can only properly see a small section of the photo if there's a large variance in light in the scene. So for example, in this photo, his shirt is blown the fuck out, as is the sky in the background, but his suit and his face are, I was going to say well exposed, but his face is also kind of overexposed. It was just really hard to get exposure right with the old technology. And you get some vignetting as well. Got any thoughts on this one?
Is this guy white or is he black?
He looks not white to me.
Okay, because I was about to say, that film is making him, he could not, he could tell me that that's not a white man, I'd believe you.
Yeah.
But that's how bad film used to be. It's funny how people want to go back to it.
He might be white. Now that's crazy. I don't know. So, either... Oh, this is another photo from around that time period. She's balling out. She's dressed out the nines.
True.
Those clouds in the background, though, fake. Not real. Fabricated.
It's like a Brazilian cloud lift.
What are your jokes today, bro? Are you good? Sure, yeah, we could go with that one. What Kadeem means by that is that those clouds were painted on after the fact. The color was not originally there, obviously, and they look like the texture of a painting.
Oh, I didn't even realize that there's color. Why would they color the sky if the photo's in black and white?
I mean, colors are cool, I guess.
True, but like now it's just like weird. Now I can't even like. I was messing with the photo, but now it's just weird because now it's just like, bruh.
Bro, you're telling me you don't fuck with it? I don't think it's even a trend nowadays to like have the subject be black and white and have color.
Oh, and then
in the
the
background.
one splash of color, or you just. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, you don't fuck with that style, bro.
I don't fuck with it.
Tragic.
I think I did it once, and then I realized this is kind of nasty.
Reasonable. Another thing to note is that at this point in time, photographers weren't really seen as serious artists. People were like, you carry a box with you and you capture a scene. Sure, it looks good, but like you're not doing anything really. What work are you doing? What skill does this require, nerd?
Funny enough, so there was two guys that like came up with like the initial like chemistries for like photography. The one guy who is regarded as like the creator got the copyright first because someone pushed him to get it first over the other guy. The other guy was told don't do it by the same guy actually. And the second guy, this is all from a Vsauce video I watched. By the way,
You weren't there?
I wasn't there.
Oh, that's crazy.
I would have been enslaved. And the second guy was so sad that he like did like these interpretive photos about like his sadness, and he was also trying to prove like how much of a medium it could be for like expression as well, which is pretty cool.
Interesting. Oh, it's really interesting that you say that because that ties into our lad Alfred Stieglitz.
Hey.
But we're getting ahead of ourselves here. We haven't even finished talking about clouds. So painting your scene is cute and all, but you know what's not cute? Not having photos.
Oh my god! Hell no, man! What the fuck, man? Get your ass on!
My reaction when no clouds in my photos.
Facts.
So something's got to be done about this. Oh no! I put 2 slides in here by accident. Fuck!
What the fuck, man? Get your ass on!
Okay, thank you. So, solutions that photographers came up to this no cloud issue. What they would do is, something that was popular was exposing the scene twice. One for your foreground and one for the clouds. You would also have colored lenses on top of your camera lens, or colored filters in front of your camera lens, in order to make the film more receptive to the blue from the sky and to be able to distinguish between the blue sky and the white clouds. This is an example of that. You have a photo that's been exposed twice, and in post they combine them together. Even still, you can see that some of the clouds are a little blown out, and you still get some vignetting on the sides. So there's a lot of benefit here still, because the clouds do look photorealistic. They do look pretty good, and I like this photo. I think it's well composed, but it's still not where you want it to be. Any thoughts on this one?
I think it's just super unfortunate that like that sky is still blown out even after having like composited it. But I mean, I guess you got to do what you got to do.
You're right. I guess life is futile.
It very much is.
Why are we even doing this podcast?
For shits and giggles. Shits and giggles.
If nothing else. Fill my grave with shits and giggles.
At least we're not like the 20 million other podcasts that just like bring on porn stars or some shit.
No, that's a good idea. We should do that. That'd actually bring in a lot of views. Thanks for that. So this is another example where you have a photographer putting a cloud scene onto a landscape. This one's done photographed by Thomas Houseworth and Company, Edward Muybridge. Remember that name, Muybridge. We're going to talk about him in a future episode. He's pretty zany. You know the photos of the motion studies with the horses, where you take different photos and it looks like they're moving. And that was him. He was quite the eccentric figure, but we don't have time for him today. Any thoughts on this photo?
I like that if you're not really like paying attention, you probably couldn't tell that it's like composited. It's like they blend it pretty well. And they also do not forget that the sky makes a reflection. Actually, now looking at it, I don't even know if the reflection is the right way, but I think they did a job. It's also like a really nice like landscape in general.
Yeah, the good scene. I like the texture in the photo. And I only noticed this one take ago, but if you look really closely at the mountain range in the back, there's a little bit of a halo effect on the mountain, and I assume that's like some evidence of the sky being fabricated in there. Something that photographers would do at this point was take photos of a sky and get your clouds, and then take a bunch of those, keep in a box, and just have like a cloud box. So whenever you take your landscape photos, look through your box, see for clouds that look good in that scene in whatever orientation, and just throw it in there. This was at the time pretty controversial because it's like it's a further abstraction of like what some people saw the point of photography being, where like for some people the whole of photography is that what you're looking at is something that had to have existed. So when you're looking at like a really crazy landscape, it's like, wow, this is so beautiful. I can't believe this was real. And then you're like,
no,
got your ass. You would have thought. And yeah, I mean, obviously it doesn't, in my opinion, and I assume in your opinion, it doesn't make it any less valid. It's just another tool to make a photo.
It's a very nice photo.
Yeah, I like this one.
Now, in opposite, this is a dog shit photo. This detracts.
Yeah, another photo by Edward Muybridge. He was really into the whole cloud box strategy. I think this is even a further step into that abstraction, where it doesn't even make sense for clouds to be here, and also they're not really well faded in. For the time, it was probably crazy, but it's hard to judge a lot of older photographs when we're without like the context of what photographs were like back then. And I don't give nearly enough shits to look at all the photos that were going on back then. So my frame of reference is very contemporary, and with that, this looks like a goofy Instagram photo.
True.
Or like honestly, maybe it kind of looks like one of those like shitty like Christian ad background photos. Like I would expect
like
Jesus being in the middle of this.
Ask Jesus for forgiveness.
Exactly.
I feel like there's a book that has this exact cover.
So yeah,
this is like the kind of picture that like you're trying to learn how to use Photoshop for the first time. You do this, and it's like the amateur graphic designer. Like this is before you become like the crazy like, oh my god, your graphic design is amazing.
This is the first thing that you do.
Yeah, it's the first thing you do, and you're like, damn, that's dog shit.
Yeah.
But you think it's the coolest thing you've ever done in your life because you don't know.
Because it is the coolest thing you've ever done in your life. I have bad news about your life, buddy. Why was it so hard taking photos of clouds at this time? Like, well, what was going on? So, back then, the major form of film that was used is called orthochromatic. Like I mentioned earlier, it was mostly sensitive to green and blue light, and not really at all to red light. We'll see in a later slide as well the visualization of this. First produced by Hermann Wohn-Vogel in 1873. Wait, if this is 1873, other photos were like the 1850s, so they were using even shittier film than orthochromatic film. Yeah, so orthochromatic film is still a little better, but not great. Going onward, we've come back and circled around to our boy Alfred Stieglitz. Quick bio. So, bad news. He was born in Jersey. Worst news. He was rich. Worst news. He studied mechanical engineering.
It's just point after point after point.
Exactly. Plus photographer. Ugh. So,
Human? Damn.
could not be me.
Unredeemable.
So, he also married Georgia O'Keeffe. Also notably cheated on Georgia O'Keeffe. But he also really liked taking nude photos of Georgia O'Keeffe.
What?
Like, a lot. A lot of his, like...
Idaho?
I mean, okay, to be fair, I looked through a lot of his catalog, and most of his nudes are, like, just his wife. And to a certain extent, that's, like, respectable. Like, I assume she was consenting to all of those photos. And she was also, like a modernist artist, so she was probably, like, you know, pretty down with it.
But also he cheated on his wife. So maybe he's only published the nudes of his wife. But he probably has a lot more nudes of other people.
True. To be honest, I don't know. I, like, read a little bit about, like, how that whole thing went down. And, like, my understanding is that she seemed tight, but, like, I don't know. He just, like, kept seeing his, like, mistress. And also stayed married to Georgia O'Keeffe until he died. For, like, a long time. I may be misremembering stuff, but, like... Yeah, probably misremembering shit. Anyways, he came around in, like, the modernist period for photography, and he was very into proving to everyone that photography is its own medium, it's its own respectable art form. We're not children. Please respect me. I'm telling you what I do is serious. Come on. Please love me. So, some of his early bangers, if you will. He lived in New York for a while, actually, and I like a lot of the photos that he took from his time there. This one was a Fifth Ave, really nice winter scene. I like the texture. I like the composition. Something that I should mention is that around this time, a lot of photographers were really insecure about being photographers. So there was this movement called, I think, pictorialism, where you would take your photos and edit them in such a way to make them look like a painting.
That's like what it is now, but without the embarrassment.
What do you mean?
Like, there's so many people that, like, will make their photos try and look like paintings.
Oh, that's cringe.
Yeah, really cringe, because it looks like dog shit. Like HDR fucking effects.
But that is not evident in his photos here. In hindsight, I think I should have put someone who did that in here for comparison. Honestly, like, they would just blur the photo a lot, and it's like, wow, it's like a painting, bro. But yeah, what do you think about this scene?
I like it. It's very... I like the motion he was able to capture with, like, the snow. Is that like... So it's like... That's like a horse and carriage or something?
Yeah. Were you sad about that?
No.
Oh, okay. Damn, I wish it was a Ford F-150.
Well, cars weren't even out yet.
Yo, babe, new car just dropped.
We need to get
Wait, when was the Model T?
I don't know off the top of my head.
This is a photography class, not a car podcast.
Yeah,
come on.
I know nothing about cars. And we're not going to get into car photography. Absolutely not.
Yeah. Oh, wait, I forgot that's a thing. You know, the fucked up thing about this hobby is that you can take a photo of anything. So there's anything photography.
Yeah.
So car photography exists. Anyways.
Computer photography.
I like this photo. He's got this one, Hand of Man. Classic
like
anti-industrialism photo. Or not necessarily anti, but like look at what we've done.
Love to see it. I hope he was an environmentalist.
Probably not.
Yeah, probably not. He probably said, fuck the world. Didn't even know what global warming was. Global warming wasn't even a thing back then.
Actually, they did, when, like, I know at least in, like, the 1920s, they had, like, there were a decent amount of scientists who were like, yeah, if we keep doing this, we're gonna, like, fuck shit up. And they just, like, ignored it for a century. I don't know if it went earlier than that. Well, not as much, but yeah.
Well, the politicians are.
This isn't the Depression podcast,
True.
Come on. I like the rail lines in this photo, making really strong lines of action, pulling your eye into the train.
Mm-hmm.
And once your eye gets to the train, your eye follows the cloud or the smokestack coming up, which I think is pretty neat. It's all a metaphor about how industrialism brings you into the machine and just chugs you out like smut and smoke.
So this one is not cloud replacement, right?
No.
He's actually just like taking pictures of the sky.
Yeah, and as you can tell, you can barely see the clouds.
True.
But if you look hard and faintly, that's like some delineation of cloud formations. Yeah. Well, what do you think about this one?
It's hard because I like it, but it's also kind of hard because it's just like how like I'm assuming that he was pretty far from it because it's like not very sharp, and like they definitely could have gotten like sharp-ish photos at this time. And I feel like it. I mean, I guess maybe I'm just like putting my modern view on it, but like maybe it'd be stronger if like the train was like more in focus, kinda. It's supposed to be the hand. Oh, I mean, I guess the hand of man could also be like referring to specifically the smoke, like putting these things into the atmosphere. Actually, no, I take that back. I do kind of like. I like it.
Nice. To your point about the sharpness of the train, if you look at it, the grain is like really rough on this photo.
Yeah.
Like more than it should be even for this time. I think my guess is that this train was in motion, so he had to get a really high ISO film in order to capture the speed right. And those smoke clouds coming out of the trains also move pretty fast. And he seems to have caught the motion pretty well. So my guess is that he just got a really high ISO film, and as a product at the time, it was just really deep fried. So it's probably hard to get focused no matter what. But I guess the rails on the left side look pretty sharp. Not too sure. For me, the haziness contributes to it. But that's more of a vibe thing than a
technical thing.
Yeah. This is actually his most famous photo, the steerage. Many people confuse this for being a photo about like immigrants coming into the U.S. If I remember correctly, this is actually a boat of people leaving the U.S. Okay, hold on. I have to look this up because it's actually important. He was traveling first class with his family from the United States to Great Britain. He took the photo of travelers on the steerage or third class section of the ship during the voyage. Well, there you go. This is not about immigration to the United States. Maybe more about poverty, I guess, since that was like third class. And like on the top, those are probably the rich people, and like they're literally above them. I think that's still pretty powerful.
Yeah. So these people, why are they going to Britain? Are they just going to go?
Why do people go to Britain today? I don't know.
True.
Yeah, I like the... What was that called? Bridge? I like the platform. It leads the eye to, like, the rich people, and then, like, your eye from there kind of goes down to the lower level.
Yeah. It also, like, kind of, like, it's like a separation. It's kind of like they can go out and kind of like look down on these people, and whereas these people have to always look up to them and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think it gives like nice separation between, because I feel like if the bridge wasn't there, it would kind of just feel like these people were entering to go up there, but now it feel like you can kind of like, it feels like this is like two separate areas, like you can't go into the other one.
I see. It adds a hard line to it. That's interesting.
It's like the two parallels.
Oh, maybe that's why he intentionally cut out that staircase on the right side.
Yeah.
Another thing that you'll notice, there's no sky in this background. It's completely white.
You know, he's not really getting to the clouds and the cloud photography here.
Yeah, not yet. Yeah, good photo. It's maybe, I think, more narrative focused than a lot of his work is. But yeah. So, 1922. My boy reads a commentary from about his work by some goofball wingnut Waldo Frank.
Says it Waldo, bro.
Exactly. Where is this guy? I don't know.
Probably 10 feet under, 6 feet under. I hope he's 6 feet under, otherwise
Got his ass.
That's an old ass man.
He said his work isn't that great because of his ability as a photographer. It's much more because the things that he's photographing are worthwhile, or the subject is what makes his photographs. He reads this and immediately goes out to make a series of cloud studies. Quote, to show that the success of my photographs was not due to subject matter, not to special trees or faces or interiors, to special privilege. Clouds are there for everyone. No tax as yet on them. They're free. And as you'll see here... Oh, sorry. Yes. Furthermore, he wanted to do these photographs. I wanted to photograph clouds to find out what I had learned in 40 years about photography. Through clouds to put down my philosophy of life. My aim is increasingly to make my photographs look so much like photographs that unless one has eyes and sees, they won't be seen. And still, everyone will never forget them once having looked at them.
Yo, this man went on some Dostoevsky type of beat right there. What the heck is going on?
What does Dostoevsky mean?
What's he talking about? What?
Well, I mean, I think he's like, it's like a philosophical issue for him, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's trying to prove that, he's trying to embark on these photos in order to, like, prove that, like, it's not about, like he said in the last slide, it's not about the subject matter, it's about his techniques. And the photos that he wants to produce are ones that, like, really stick with people, and that, like, you can't describe his photo to someone. Mm-hmm. You have to be able to see it. And once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. It's like that striking.
Okay.
And I think in that sense, it's a pretty romantic view of your role as a photographer. Mm-hmm. And in my opinion, pretty admirable. What do you think about this sentiment?
Pretty based. I like that he has this much confidence in himself. Mm. Also, the critic is just kind of like, because I feel like you can definitely photograph a subject matter that's striking and still do it badly. Like, there's just no way that he can consistently, like, take photos of certain things, and then it's like, people are like, oh my god, this is amazing, and it's like consistently just the subject matter. Because, like, you can definitely take a bad photo of a good subject.
Exactly. I was thinking that too. Like, it still requires a lot of effort and technical ability in order to pull that off. And I think, honestly, I feel like, to a certain extent, those kind of photographs where, like, quote, the subject is the strength of the photo, are more just, like, narrative-based ones, and ones that are more easy for someone who's, like, not super into photography to understand and appreciate. Because like, if you have a narrative, like anyone can pick that up. But if you have an abstract photo where you're doing some like really crazy shit with your exposure or with the way that you're composing the photo, if you don't have the context of like, if you don't know that this is out of the box, it just looks like gobbledygook.
Yeah. Or even just like, it doesn't even have to be like super abstract. It can even just be like something like you wouldn't normally think of, like the guy who took a photo of his wife like just pissing in a barn. It's like this really famous photo, and it's like this intimate photo. But like to like, if you just showed that to an average person, it'd just be like, bro, this is a lady pissing.
Yeah. Ew, dude, what the fuck? True. And up next, these are some photos that he took. On the right, we have his worst self-portrait. On the left, average cloud enjoyer.
Love to see it.
Yeah. I do love that the Gigachad meme is in black and white because it like really fits with this joke. So, quick notes before we go on to this work that he has decided to concentrate his 40 years of experience into. He tried some of this earlier, actually. He did some cloud studies, but none of them really satisfied him, in large part because of the orthochromatic film that they had at the time. It just wasn't really possible to get great photos with that. So now we have panchromatic film, but before we have panchromatic film, I want to show you some of the photos that he did before, that he tried to do. Nice scene. What do you think? Yeah. I'll let you go first.
He got the god beams coming down. It's pretty nice. It's very unfortunate that like mountain range couldn't be like a little bit brighter, but like I think like considering the limitations, like I think it's like really nice exposure. It's really like it's kind of like heavenly, kind of like a divine kind of feeling. I think it was really cool.
Yeah, I think he was able to achieve this by exposing a lot more than the clouds than you normally would. And unfortunately, that has the effect of leaving out a lot of that left side of the photo and the mountain range pretty underexposed. But, like you said, limitations at the time, it was probably worth it, at least for one photo. He probably took another one where he exposed for the mountains and then the sky looked like shit. For the next one, I honestly like this one.
Yeah.
With, it's all, like, pretty faded, but, like, you still see clouds and you still see the mountain range. I like the texture. There's, like, very little contrast in the photo, but I fuck with the texture of the mountain contrasting with the clouds.
I do wish that he like. I guess maybe it'd look a little strange, but like maybe like burn in the mountain range a little bit more. At least like nearer to the sky, so there's like more differentiation between the sky and the mountain range. I don't know. There's like it feels like all one like level of gray, and not like a whole dynamic. Like obviously that mountain is definitely a lot darker than the sky.
Yeah.
But I really do like this photo as well.
Nice.
Oh,
Red alert.
what do we red alert?
New film just dropped, babe.
Hey, yo.
It's 1906. Panchromatic film is now on the market. So what's the big whoop? The big whoop is that now we can capture red light.
Let's go.
The bad whoop is that it's like 3 times more expensive. It's pretty finicky. The shelf life is dog shit. Like what now?
Like how film has gotten 3 times more expensive in the past 3 years.
Do not remind me, bro. Please.
They went up a price hike again this year.
Seriously?
Yeah, as of January
Kodak?
16th. Yeah.
Oh my fucking god. How much is it now?
It's like another like 16% or like 20% higher. It's like a box of like 800 costs like $100 something.
That's a whole magic booster box, bro. What the fuck?
I need a new job if I'm gonna buy more film.
I need a new hobby. I can't afford this shit, bro. Donate, subscribe to the channel. Your AdSense, or you watching the ads is what allows us to continue to buy film. Who am I kidding? We don't buy film anymore.
True. Do you actually have AdSense on this?
Probably not. In order to have ads, people gotta watch it. Also, this kind of film had to be developed in the dark because, unlike the orthochromatic film that was not sensitive to red light, so you could use a red light in your development room, now it had to be done in the dark because that light is just going to overexpose your film.
It's just the scariest thing to think about, having to develop in the dark. I have not gone into color development because you have to do it in the dark. And it just sounds just like way too much.
Yeah, I think you have to be pretty experienced and have like everything exactly where it needs to be.
Yeah, like you can't just build one today and then be like, well, let's get started. You gotta know what you're doing.
Yeah. So in spite of it coming out in 1906 or being invented, it took until about the 1920s for the price to come down, for all of these issues that I mentioned to be further developed and until it became pretty popular, or at least more popular than orthochromatic film. This is a pretty good visual that I found from the Dark Room website. On the left, you have
like
orthochromatic film. Sorry?
The people who develop film?
I don't know.
No.
On the left, we have orthochromatic film. On the right, you have panchromatic film. And as you can see, on the right side, the background is, like, you can see more. Like, it's just more balanced. In the left, a lot of the reds are underexposed. Like her top and her hat. And the flower. So just good chemistry. Good invention.
Do you think people at the time were would switch back and forth for artistic purposes?
Maybe. I mean, going back, the effect of orthochromatic film is probably the same as using a blue lens, I think, on the front.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, a blue lens would absorb blue? So, no, it would be the same as having a red lens. Because it would absorb the red, and that's the same as the film not being sensitive to red. So it would make your reds darker. I guess, but they probably had those colored films at the time.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
Maybe it was cheaper than getting a lens. Or than getting a filter. Okay. Back to equivalence. Okay, for real, now we're getting into the meat of it. It only took however long it took. So before we do that, we need more context.
Got him. Psych, that's the wrong number.
So this isn't all one piece. He didn't do this all in one shot. This was once he started doing it, it was kind of a lifelong project for him. He started it in 1923. He started off with 10 photographs called Music, a sequence of 10 cloud photos. And he had those on display at his own exhibits and shit. Then he made some more called Songs of the Sky, and I think he would call the rest of them equivalents after that. In 1925, he made much more photographs. Over time, they became a lot more abstract. And then he would start calling them equivalents. He renamed some of the Songs of the Sky photos to equivalents later on. So here we have the first one. One of the first set of a sequence of 10 cloud photos. Number 1, in fact, from 1922. I'll let you go first. Is this recording? It is. So, okay. Hello. We
migrated.
The IRS found us and they wanted their tax money, so we had to move just a bit. All right. So last you were saying you like the contrast in the photo, the house on the bottom.
Yeah, I like the atmosphere. It's like very grandiose, and like the negative space above the house is just kind of like, it's very jarring. It's kind of like there's so much, like, humanity is just this little speck compared to like the grandiose of nature.
Mm. Yeah, while you're saying that, I was thinking about how like a lot of cosmic photography is about doing the same thing, but like on a larger scale. And like I feel like that's a much more like modern thing, obviously, because like space travel is more modern, and like getting shit in space, like cameras is. But I don't know, going back to the old roots, making existential fear great again. Just realizing that like even just like the mountain and the skies are like unfathomably large. It also reminds me of those Reddit posts where it's like banana for scale, and it's like you have a house.
I think also like, well, what did the Sound of Music come out yet?
No, this was pre World War II.
Never mind then.
What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say like it literally looks like the like kind of like landscape from the Sound of Music.
Mm.
Maybe that's what they're inspired by. Probably not, but
Yeah, I don't know where you got that from. This is actually Uruguay.
actually,
I actually don't know where this is. Here we have number 2, a sequence of 10 cloud photos. I like the verticality of the photo. I think it's another instance where he gives the... So the thing with cloud photos is that when you're living your life and you look at a cloud, you always have the reference of the ground, and it gives you a sense of scale. When you're looking at a photo, like in this photo, he's tethering the clouds in some way by keeping even like just a sliver of the ground at the bottom for a sense of scale and perspective. And I think it works well here. It gives the clouds a larger than life kind of feeling, and I do like the texture of them.
I feel like part of me wants to go like, I've been like just like ruined by like the average cloud photo. Because I feel like this one doesn't do as much as at least the first one just did. Definitely a different perspective, but it feels like I would have liked if like maybe if he had waited for like a different cloud formation, kind of like to make it more interesting. Because now it just looks like the clouds are passing, right? I don't particularly like this one, in my opinion.
That's understandable. I kind of like the other one, or I kind of like this one a little more than the other one, mostly because I think there's a much larger emphasis on the clouds themselves, and I think that the cloud formation is like it has my eyes moving around the photo a lot more than the other photo. Like I keep like looking at different details and like keep nibbling on it, so to speak. I also like the use of balance here, having the like low contrast clouds balanced out by a really small but like extremely dense region of ground at the bottom.
I do like that, yeah.
Onward. So this is an instance where this is from Songs to the Sky. This is an instance where the sky is no longer tethered to the ground. You don't really have a frame of reference for how big it is, but it looks reasonably big.
So like this one, I like. Maybe I just didn't like it being tethered to the ground, because I like this one better than the last one. I feel like there's like, you can like see his kind of like technical skills kind of like making this side of the cloud a lot lighter than the other side of the cloud, and like just like it's a lot more abstract, and like that cloud looks like it has a face in it, and it's just kind of like what is the point of view of this? Like who is seeing this right now? Like whose eyes are seeing this? Like am I looking directly up? Am I seeing it from like an angled view or whatever? Like where am I seeing this from?
Mm-hmm. Something I like about this photo is how the borderline of the main cloud really zigzags and follows the vertical frame. I think another thing that we should mention is that all of these photos so far have been in vertical frame, which is not common for photography outside of portraiture.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I think, now that you mention it, I feel like he was definitely trying to like make like a point. Like you said, he's trying to like show that like it's a legitimate art form, like photography, and like anything. Like it doesn't need to be a person for it to be a portrait. A portrait can be anything if you're like giving it that kind of like attention. And he was definitely giving the clouds the attention they need to be like the main subject and like main like person in the photo.
I think it's a really good interpretation. I also think about how with landscape photography, it's like a given that you take your photos horizontally most of the time. And usually when clouds are in the photo, it's part of the horizon, and of course your frame has to conform to that. But going with a vertical frame is going in the opposite direction, like you said, making a portrait out of anything, like really focusing on the cloud as a subject. I also like his composition here. I think I don't know if balance is the right term, but I just like that there's like a really solid mass to the right side, and then like just a nice light fluffy cloud on the left, followed by like empty space as well. Yeah, I think that would be balance.
Yeah.
Good shapes too. On to the next one. Do you want to start?
So this one. So it's less about the cloud, I guess, here, and more about like the tree. But like, I like that it's like kind of like the cloud, at least at the top, kind of takes on like as part of the tree, and it's kind of like an attachment to it, or like the tree's kind of like reaching out to it, holding on to it, kind of thing. And I think like that was a nice choice to like make it kind of be a part of it. I kind of wish that like he like kind of like made these ones a little bit darker, like in comparison to the tree.
We can make the what a little darker?
Like maybe burn in like the clouds at the bottom a little bit to like reduce the like the difference, the contrast between the bottom of the tree. So it was like, I guess like kind of like, so they felt like more part of the tree, and like you can like have that like the top of the cloud is a little more like the cloud at the top is like more standoutish.
I see, so it doesn't detract from the cloud at the bottom.
Yeah.
Or with the cloud in the bottom.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I like that this is also a different form of tethering, I would argue, where like none of the ground is in this photo either, but the tree still gives it a sense of scale. And yeah, like you said, the subject isn't the clouds anymore, but the clouds also aren't neglected. Like you said, they're very purposely placed. The one at the top there to grab your attention and increase the contrast with the tree. I'm not sure how I feel about the cloud at the bottom left, increasing the contrast there. It does, like on the one hand, I am looking at it some of the time, but on the other hand, I feel like if there was nothing else to grab my eye, the photo might just be too much focused on the cloud on the top, because there isn't that much detail within the tree outside of like the shape of the leaves, and maybe it'd be too stale. but I would know. I'm not sure, rather. So for the next one, so this is gonna, now we're getting a little more abstract. This is like giga untethered. Not only is there like no ground for reference, I also don't even know what orientation this is supposed to be in. I don't know what direction anything is in. This is like pretty much holistically an abstract photo. I can barely tell that these are clouds. I like this a good amount.
I like this one too. I think like it definitely forces you to like kind of like instantly. I was just like, well, what does that cloud look like? And I was kind of like, I was just thinking of all the different things like I could like interpret the way the cloud looks, and I think I assume that's what he was going for. He wanted you to like, you have no ground in like where this is being taken from, and therefore your mind has to fill in the gaps. And like I think that really strengthens the photo a lot. Like it's just a cloud, yet it forced me to think so many things that like as soon as I saw it.
Yeah, I also like the way that he's positioned the foot, like how he's composed the photo. I think again he's using balance pretty well, balancing the dark bottom half with the light upper half, and the lines, or what like few lines that we do have, are I think well aligned with the diagonal of the photo. And I'm just like kind of mesmerized, honestly, by like that center like U mass in the middle, and like looking at the detail in there. That's a beaut.
Very much is. Oh.
Another Songs to the Sky. I think this is maybe the second one that we've seen with the sun, but not. This is the first one where we see the sun like really explicitly. I think even though we now have the technology of panchromatic photo, I think he's really pushing his luck with this one, at least in terms of dynamic range, because the right side is not really well exposed. Kind of looks like an egg with like a tiny yolk.
I thought it looked like kind of like an alien kind of descendant. Like some weird outer race or something. But it's also just like, contrary to what the critics said, he's very much like it's clouds are a very simple subject that you can think of in like, you can take a picture a million ways and it'd probably be so simple, yet he's able to make us like look at these and think.
Yeah. And like when you like first immediately look at a photo and not being able to recognize it, I think helps to make it more intriguing. But then again, I feel like some people might take that a little too much on surface value, and they're just like, okay, I'm just gonna make some goofy shit that's unrecognizable. But this, yeah, it's not like my favorite one so far. I do like the inclusion of the sun, and like it's not like the sun is pulling the entirety of the focus of the photo. Like I'm also looking at the way that the cloud like trails off into the right side and like the edges of the cloud, but
it also feels kind of like Eye of the Storm, like that's like all the clouds are gathering there, kind of thing.
The next one. What are you thinking?
I like the part in the middle. I think it's kind of like what's going on through there, kind of thing. I wonder how he like was able to like so like the radiating contrast, like it's so light in the middle yet so dark on the outside. I just kind of wonder how he did that. It's kind of cool.
this photo feels so like, you know how so far progressively we've been getting like, more detached from the ground from a sense of direction. There was one a couple ago where you just feel kind of lost. I feel like this one is intentionally disorienting.
Mm-hmm.
I think that all the lines being so in line with the horizontal axis, but the photo is still vertical, really throws me off. But like in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's I feel like it's challenging like my assumptions on like what a cloud should look like. Like if I turn this 90 degrees, there's no reason that a cloud wouldn't look like that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also no reason that a cloud wouldn't look like the way it does right now. I fuck with this. I like this one, I think, a little more than the last one.
Mm-hmm.
I think the shapes are a lot more complex.
I think the D8 one was still my favorite so far.
What was the... Oh, this one, yeah, that's fair. Here we have one of the first equivalent that we're looking at. I think this one's rather simple, but it's good at being simple. The lines are radial, but they're not like perfect lines, so it's still like, how do I say this? It's not like super neat, but there's still something for your like gaze to follow.
I like that it's kind of like sprawling and kind of like they like lead you into that like center, but like not like the edge of the photo, and you're kind of like left wondering like where are they coming from, or are they going away from it? Like what's there?
I also like the way that the clouds are directed. Kind of implies the sun is off to the top right, and that towards the bottom there's more like empty sky, and this is like the gradient that he's captured. Oh, another equivalent.
So very striking, like like this is like the white man of the cloud photo, the generic. Sorry, I shouldn't equate white people with the baseline because they're not. But besides the point, you get the point.
I know what you mean. That this is like when you think of like cloud photography, like this is the kind of thing where it shows the grand scale. It shows like the majesty of it. I think in a very photogenic kind of way.
Yeah, but even then, I still like. I think there's like a lot of like. There's still a lot going on. Like there's a lot of like different types of clouds, and there's a lot of like perspective in the fact that like you have this big center cloud being surrounded by these other clouds, and it's kind of like, how was this like what's there that all these clouds are surrounding it, kind of thing. And also like, was the other one landscape, or is this the first landscape?
There was one or two other landscape ones, but this is one of this one's. I do really like that he framed that center cloud with the other clouds, and that each of them in their own right is pretty complex, and you can like take a look at those as well. I also really like that the center cloud is really dark, and like that top cloud is really light. I don't know if that's something that he would have done in post, but I feel like that's not really easy to have gotten straight out of the camera, unless like that upper cloud is a lot closer, so the direction with the sun is at a radically different angle. Yeah, like the fact that like those big like chunky clouds are like basically silhouettes with just a little bit of highlight, and then you have the ones closer to the foreground with a lot more detail. I'm a fan. I agree that it seems more like a stock photo, or not stock photo, like
this is what people are imitating when they take cloud photos.
Yeah, or like this reminds me of like those clouds from like that like lion that roars at the beginning of movies.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also like not as simple.
It's simple but complex.
So true. We truly, you can tell we're photographers because we're just talking nonsense. We're just like, wow, this photo is good. Wow, this photo is bad. Why? I feel like it.
I mean, most of photography.
Unironically, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there is no like good or bad in photography. There's just what you like and what you don't like.
There definitely is. Exceptionally bad.
Okay, you were right. My fault. I forgot Taito existed, bro. My fault. My fault. So we're looking at equivalent X3, 1927. I think this is another example. So I think this is pretty explicitly...
Is this taken after his wife's work?
Does this look like a vagina to you?
A little bit. Like at the top.
I guess. I assume that actually, I'm not going to assume what his intent was. I don't know what his intent was. But I will say that I do feel quite... There's another photo where I feel quite disoriented by the fact that it's... This son of a bitch. Now it's a horizontal photo.
But it should be vertical.
But it feels like it should be vertical. Son of a gun.
Got him. He really got him. Yeah.
I think, similar to the last photo, like it's that same type of cloud, that like just really photogenic kind of cloud.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not as much of a silhouette as the ones that were in the middle. So I really like it. It's like you get a bunch of texture, like a wave of texture, and then like dark, and then another wave of texture, and then like dark again, and then like more texture again. I like this one.
Yeah. I agree.
Any deeper thoughts?
I don't really have real thoughts on it. I think he did a good job with this one, though.
Based.
Ooh.
We got a coolant W1. Very different type of cloud now. I'll let you go first.
So, are these like... Is the naming scheme like relevant to anything?
No, I think it's just like the order in which he did them.
So he just chose W1 for like winter?
No, it was probably like they were alphabetically named. Probably like he probably did like a series, and it was like A1, A2, A3, A4, A5.
Okay.
Next series B1, B2.
But
Why you don't think this one's a W?
I like this one.
Oh, okay.
W photo.
Base.
I enjoy the like the waviness, the interconnectedness of the clouds, but like they're so sporadic, and it's kind of like you can like kind of like misconstrue it with like something else. Like this could be like you're looking at like, I guess at this time they had never been to the moon, but like this looks like one of those like kind of like moon photos a little bit, or like kind of like the zoom up of like a microbe or some shit like that.
I see what you mean. Would you say that's because of how like the cloud feels distorted? Like it's like it feels like, what is it called? Like you're using a macro lens.
Mm-hmm. And he gives that like kind of like, he definitely does that effect that like those kinds of like things give.
I like the inclusion of the sun in the photo to break the uniformity of the shot.
Mm.
And I like that this type of cloud is like uniform, but it's not, I don't know what the word would be. Like each unit of like the cloud isn't identical.
Mm.
I feel like overall it's not as like complex as some of the other ones that we've seen. I think in large part because of the lack of the contrast everywhere except for the top right of the screen.
Yeah. I feel like he was trying to go more abstract with this one. Like those ones are meant to be like the complexity of the sky and like how many different forms I guess it could take. But this one seems like more like an abstract version of that.
I think, again, the inclusion of the sun probably, I would gander that it detracts a little more than it adds, just because of how much the rest of the photo takes a hit on its exposure and contrast. I like this one.
Oh boy. This reminds me of that, I forget what this guy's name is, but like, he would take these black and whites and like, it was kind of look like paintings, kind of like almost, and be like very harsh contrast and stuff between like the sky and like his foreground or like whatever he was taking out. It was mostly landscape and stuff. And this kind of reminds me of like one of those photos. Kind of like, because like it's that harsh, super harsh sunlight across like it's just the one strip of cloud, but like it like kind of mimics that kind of like, this is a landscape being like pounded on by like harsh sunlight.
What strikes me about this one is that it's like even further abstracted, again, a new level. I don't even know if this is a real cloud. I'm gonna be honest. Like the way that the sun is being smeared here, I'm like, maybe that could be an effect of like a real cloud, but that also looks like something that could be done in post. And like the way that the cloud looks smeared looks like something that could be done in post, but I would also believe that it was a cloud, maybe.
It also kind of looks like the ocean, kind of like just flowing kind of way. Like it doesn't have to be the sky. Is there a significance behind at least like the name equivalent?
There probably is. I don't remember exactly. Probably something about probably something relating to his philosophy that I mentioned earlier about like I guess maybe clouds being equivalents. I think there's another case where the sun being in the photo kind of hits or kind of hurts. It's just really hard to overlook how little you can see of the photograph anywhere that's not the sun. Like I really wish I could see that texture in where the flow goes, but it's tough. You have any last thoughts on this one? And that's it. Credit to this article, that other article, Wikipedia, made by Kadim, the Metropolitan Museum, also made by Kadim.
Yeah, I own it.
Yeah, well, you made it too with your own bare hands.
Facts, I built it from the ground up. Since 1962.
And the dark room for that one screenshot that I took from their article. Again, Achilles, Kadim, like, subscribe, comment. Let us know what photographers you want to see in the future, or maybe what genre photography you think we should talk about. We're open to anything, and we might do it.
Might.
See you all next time.